You see the headlines every single day, right? What we should be eating, what we shouldn't. All of it based on nutrition science. But have you ever stopped to wonder how scientists actually know what people are eating in the first place? Well, let's dive in, because the answer is part science and, you guessed it, part detective story.
No, really, take a second. Can you picture it? The main course? Any sides? What about a drink? Did you grab a snack later that night? It's surprisingly hard to remember, isn't it?
And that right there, that simple little fact that our memories are, well, kind of glitchy, is the single biggest challenge for every nutrition researcher on the planet. It's the ultimate cold case. How do you find out the truth about what someone ate days, weeks, or even a year ago? Well, you have to become a food detective.
So in this explainer, we're basically opening up the investigator's case file. We're going to look at the real tools and techniques researchers use to piece together the giant puzzle of our daily diets. And we're going to see how they deal with their number one obstacle: us. You know, a good detective doesn't just show up with a magnifying glass. They've got a whole toolkit for different situations. And it's exactly the same here. Researchers have to pick the right method based on what they're trying to figure out. Are they looking at one person or a whole population? Are we talking about last night's dinner or last year's habits? So let's open up that toolkit and see what's inside. All right, these first methods are all about getting the immediate facts. Think of it like a detective interviewing an eyewitness right there at the scene. The whole point is to capture all the little details before they have a chance to fade away. First up, we have the dietary record. Now, this is the most intense one for sure. Participants have to weigh, measure, and write down everything, and I mean everything, they eat or drink, right at the moment they consume it. It's like keeping a minute-by-minute surveillance log of your own plate. So, you can probably see the classic trade-off here. On the one hand, you get incredibly detailed, precise data that doesn't rely on that faulty memory of ours. Awesome. But on the other hand, it is a huge pain for the participants. And here's the real kicker. Just the act of writing it all down can make people change what they eat. Maybe they pick simpler foods to make it easier to record, or maybe they just start eating healthier because they know someone's, watching. Okay, the next tool is the 24-hour recall. So instead of a real-time diary, this is more like a structured interview. A trained professional actually guides a person step by step through the last 24 hours, using all these clever prompts to jog their memory about every single meal, snack, and drink. Now, the contrast here is pretty clear. This is way easier for the person being interviewed, and you're still trying to capture what they actually ate. But the big weakness, you're still relying on memory, even if it is just for one day. And of course, what you ate yesterday might be totally different from your normal routine. I mean, your diet on a Tuesday is probably not the same as on a Saturday, right? So what if a detective isn't interested in what happened on one specific day? What if they want to build a profile, Look at someone's habits and patterns over months or even years. Well, that's going to require a completely different kind of tool. And that tool is the Food Frequency Questionnaire, or what researchers call the FFQ. It's pretty much what it sounds like, a giant checklist. You get a long list of foods, apples, soda, brown rice, you name it, and you have to report how often you ate them over, say, the past year. Was it once a month, 2 to 3 times a week, never? The FFQ is amazing for studying huge groups of people. We're talking tens of thousands because it's cheap and relatively easy to do. It gives you that big picture, long-term profile. But its weakness is also pretty glaring. It relies on really, really complex long-term memory. I mean, just trying to average out how many bananas you ate over an entire year, that's a massive mental challenge. And don't even get me started on estimating portion sizes. That's often just a wild guess. Okay, so we have our tools, we have our methods, but now we come to the central plot twist in our detective story. The main source of information in this entire investigation, the person telling us what they ate, is, and there's no way around this, fundamentally unreliable. This really gets to the heart of it. Remembering what you ate isn't like playing back a video. It's not a recording. Your brain has to interpret the question, search for little bits and pieces of memories, make judgments about them, and then figure out how to report it. It's a full-on reconstruction, not a simple recall, and errors can creep in at every single one of those steps. Now, these errors usually fall into two main camps. First, you have random error. Think of this like static on the line. Small, accidental mistakes, like forgetting a handful of nuts you ate. In a big group, these mistakes tend to cancel each other out. But then there's systematic error, also known as bias, and that's a whole different beast. This is when people consistently make the same kind of mistake, like always under-reporting how much junk food they eat, or always over-reporting how many vegetables. That doesn't cancel out. That skews the entire result.
This is basically the detective's cheat sheet for spotting false leads. It shows us which of our tools are most likely to fall for which kinds of errors. So, for example, look at estimation of weight of foods. It's a huge potential problem for recalls and FFQs, right? But it's not an issue at all for a weighed record, because you're literally weighing it. On the flip side, changes in real diet is a big problem for those weighed records, but not so much for the other methods looking at the past.
So, if every tool has flaws and every witness is a little bit unreliable, how on earth does a researcher ever actually crack the case? Well, it all comes down to choosing the right tool for the right job. And this is probably the most important takeaway of all. There's no magic bullet. There is no single best way to measure what people eat. A method that's perfect for figuring out the average vitamin C intake of an entire country might be absolutely terrible for advising one person on their daily diet. The research question is king. It dictates everything. So a good researcher thinks exactly like a detective. They ask a series of critical questions before they even start their investigation. Who are we studying? Children? Athletes? A specific cultural group? What are we looking for? Total calories? Or maybe a rare micronutrient? When is the time frame? Yesterday or last year? Where was the food eaten? At home or in restaurants? And most important of all, why are we doing this study? Is it for public policy or for a small clinical trial? The answers to these questions point them directly to the best investigative tool for the case. So, next time you see that big headline declaring some food is the new superhero or the new villain, now you get to be the detective. You can ask yourself, hang on, how did they get this information? What tool did they use? What are its strengths? And more importantly, what are its weaknesses? Because understanding the investigation, that's the first real step to understanding the results.